I'm eating everything that Mark eats in season 1 of Severance. By the end of this, we'll determine whether Mark is a gourmand, a food gremlin, or just deeply, deeply sad. Severance is a psychological sci-fi series about Mark, a man whose job at Lumon Industries quite literally splits his consciousness in two, his innie work persona and his outie outside work persona. It's a show about identity, corporate control, and the existential horror of having to work an office job. Food in the Severance universe is fascinating. There's clearly a lot of symbolism going on here, and like everyone else crafting conspiracy theories, I probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But here's the deal. I'm only focusing on what Mark eats. Whether it's his innie or his outie, that is it. So no, we're not covering the weird Lumon vending machine or the even weirder waffle party. So what does Mark actually eat? Does Lumon feed its employees well? And do innie Mark and outie Mark have different tastes? And does he make good food choices? Or is he just a corporate drone surviving on whatever snacks he can scavenge? And one more thing, I've actually undergone a severance procedure specifically for this video so that I don't have to do any of the hard work, and hopefully I'll come out at the end of this with a fully edited YouTube video. Beer. Mark drinks a lot of beer. It's his coping mechanism for the existential weight of his severed life and his dead wife. This man is keeping the local liquor store in business, and considering he lives in a Lumon town, it's probably Lumon brewed. So I've picked whatever I imagine a soulless corporate entity would brew. If Lumon made beer, this would be it. It would have a sterile, non-threatening design and a taste that's just barely legal to be called beer. Yeah, that tastes like a 9 to 5. Alcoholism is many things, but it's not gourmet, so it gets a gremlin point. Mark has a sandwich after the non-dinner dinner party with his sister and brother-in-law. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but that sandwich, that's the meal of a man who's given up, who goes to a non-dinner dinner party. I've recreated it. It's bread, a few slices of turkey, lettuce, and what looks like a slice of cheese. I've also added some mayo so that I don't have to eat a dry sandwich. Now, did it taste good? Sure, it's fine, but it's not gourmet, is it? No, it's a functional sandwich, the kind you sort of slap together when you realise you haven't eaten all day because you've been too busy questioning the nature of your own existence. So it gets a gremlin point. The first thing we see innie Mark consume is office coffee, and considering severed employees don't technically sleep, caffeine is probably the only thing that's keeping them from collapsing. Doesn't seem like Lumon lets the innies eat much. They get 2 vending machine tokens a day, and food is mostly used as a weird corporate reward. To replicate this, I've made pour over coffee, let it sit for 2 hours, and microwaved it. The true office experience. Ugh. It tastes like pain. This is I have 47 unread emails and my soul is evaporating in liquid form. It's essential, but it's pure gremlin behaviour, even if it's one of the only things innie Mark gets to have. The Melon Bar is a corporate food reward for severed employees. For innie Mark, this is probably the best thing he's ever eaten because he has no context for real good food. Melon is basically his caviar. So I bought a bunch of melons and tried to replicate the presentation from the show. Honestly though, I quite like melon, and having it pre-boiled for my convenience does make me feel a little bit fancy. It feels wrong to reward loyalty with fruit, but from innie Mark's perspective, this is a huge deal. So for him, it's a gourmet point. We see Mark on a date, and Mark's date features absolutely no visible food. Either this is a foodless restaurant, or the filmmakers set the scene in that weird limbo between getting your drinks and your food arriving, so that all we see Mark consume is whiskey. Whiskey, unlike beer, has some dignity. A man drinking whiskey alone is either a protagonist in a noir film, or someone barely holding it together. And for that, I'm giving him a begrudgingly gourmet point. It's 11 AM right now. I did not need that. After his date, Mark comes home to Mrs. Selvig / Miss Cobell, who has baked him some chamomile cookies. She's weirdly obsessed with making sure Mark gets enough sleep.
It takes the saints 8 hours to bless a sleeping child. I hope you aren't rushing the saints.
Well, come by the shop, okay? I'll give you a mugwort bath bomb that'll make you sleep like a rag doll.
We should talk later over a nice hot cup of lavender tea.
Chamomile cookies, lavender tea, mugwort bath bombs, and cryptic bedtime wisdom. Even outie Mark, who doesn't know his neighbour is actually his boss, finds this unsettling. And considering she's literally manipulating his life, these cookies taste sinister. Eating cookies made by your secretly evil boss / neighbour? That's gremlin behaviour. But on the other hand, these are really nice, and homemade cookies are kind of gourmet, so 1 point for each. Mark shares pizza in a garage with his ex-severed work friend. We don't actually see him eat it, but realistically, he's at least had a slice. He even has a bit of paper towel, so I'm assuming that it's just to wipe off the pizza grease. So I ordered a pizza and gave half of it to an old workmate. It's one of the most human meals in the show. Pizza is warm, greasy, and comfortable. It's one of those first moments where Mark connects with another person. But is pizza gourmet? No, it's not, so it gets a gremlin point. Mark is seen eating fries on his second date. We don't know what he ordered. Maybe a burger, maybe nothing. There's a red thing on his plate. Is it a tomato? Ketchup? I refuse to speculate, so I'm just going to eat fries. Fries are a universal comfort food, but they're not gourmet. And while Mark is having a really nice time on his date, he doesn't seem to really care. Fries are fries, and it's a gremlin point. In a fleeting moment, we see peanuts and whiskey. Mark is seen trying to fix a picture of his dead wife. So I've grabbed a loose handful of peanuts and assembled a photo of a deceased loved one. Is this also Mark's choice from that vending machine? Maybe it's something they have in common, other than obviously, being the same person. Either way, this is profoundly sad, so it's a huge gremlin point. Now we get into the most interesting dish throughout the entire series, the egg bar social. Mark and his team get rewarded with an egg bar social, and from the reaction of the others, they seem like they must taste pretty good.
Jesus, this is actually good.
Yeah, the egg bar is coveted as fuck.
The event includes platters of deviled eggs, both regular and some that appear to be beet pickled, several soft-boiled eggs in cups, a bowl of punch or Kool-Aid, and several random brown lumps that I'm assuming are Scotch eggs because eggs. So I've gone ahead and tried to replicate the recipe as best I can. Luckily, another food-based creator on YouTube has already done this, so I've already got a method to follow. His name rhymes with whinging with Wabbish. The environment and context surrounding this meal are bloody weird and creepy, but the presentation and effort alone makes this egg dish go far beyond any sort of gremlin behaviour. Effort has been made in this, it's a huge reward for Mark, and they do give off a bougie vibe, so it has to be gourmet. Mark isn't in control of his meals. His food choices are dictated by a few things. Corporate manipulation, existential grief, and a lot of beer and whiskey. Would I want to eat like Mark? Absolutely not. Would I go to a waffle party? Maybe. Either way, I've come to the conclusion that even given his complex life, Mark is ultimately a food gremlin.